Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast. For each week, we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, it's your host, Sean, and welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. We have bellied up to the bar today. It is, what day? I don't even know what day of the week it is. I keep losing track. It is definitely Wednesday, but it's October 16th, and we've bellied up to the bar. If you're catching us right at the very beginning, just so you understand, I'm going to tell you now, this is the greatest hair we have ever had on the show. This guest is winning in the hair game. If this you could have thought that I was doing a show about 80s rock and roll, because my man is killing it right now. So joining us, he'll have to tell me where. We didn't catch where, but joining us, we'll call it from parts unknown with hair so great, it's Mr. Andre Paradis.
Well, thank you. That's quite an intro.
Well, brother, I never know how I'm going to introduce anybody. I normally tell folks
love it.
It's completely off the cuff. Like, if you like, your hair is pretty impressive, bro. Like, you could either be an 80s rock star or doing street magic, one or the other. And what we're about to talk about today is magic, because he's going to tell us why women talk the way they do, why men talk the way we do, and how we can figure out how to communicate with each other and leave the bullshit to the side. Is that pretty much a good way of covering it?
Yeah, we're going to tackle it. At least we're going to decode some of it, because it's something we're all blind to. We don't understand we're doing it. We don't know we're doing it. And we think the other one's misbehaving. We're just we don't speak and listen the same way. It's a fact. I'll explain. So, yes.
Perfect. So let's get into some of the housekeeping. My buddy Brian had it, nailed it. He said Zorro.
He said Zorro. I get the Three Musketeers all day long. Three Musketeers.
Don't let me forget to tell you something I just learned about Zorro after we do all the house cleaning. So as always, folks, we got the big board over my right shoulder for Sticker in the Cause. If you got something you're supporting, maybe you've got your own band, your own club, your own podcast, I don't care what it is. You can reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, X, Instagram, TikTok. Our website is the Above the Bar Podcast. Our email is abovethebardpodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you got going on. We'll go ahead and get it posted up. I'll tell you where to send me the sticker at, and I'll read about you free on the air. We also got to talk about our sponsors, because they're paying the bills around this place. That's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Budget Blinds of Hudson and Cooksaki, and now Budget Blinds of Schoharie, all around the New York area, around the capital region of New York. They are America's #1 window treatment company, custom. They're handling everything from blinds, shades, shutters, drapery. They can tint your windows, whatever you need, they can do it for you. It's a free consultation. They handle the installation. They're going to take care of you, all the way up to the fact that this month they're doing 25% off your entire order. And if you let them know you're there to belly up to the bar, they're going to give you another 5% off. That's Budget Blinds of East Greenbush, Budget Blinds of Hudson and Cooksaki, and Budget Blinds of Schoharie. So, all right. So real quick, before I forget about it, Andre, do you know the real Zorro? Do you know about the real Zorro?
No, the one on TV back when I was a kid, but right. No.
So Zorro was based on a real person.
Okay.
Like, he was legit. But did you know he was an Irish immigrant to South America? That was like a super wealthy Irish immigrant to South America that was doing all like the robbing and the swords. He was a real guy, but he was an Irish guy.
Interesting.
Like, completely, like, we think of him like, is this like Spanish swashbuckler and everything?
Yep.
Nope. He was a drunken Irishman with a bottle of whiskey. Like, he was all about it. So
interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
So let me get your banner running here. So again, folks, and I love, if I'm saying your name wrong, last name wrong, Andre, you better tell me, but I love saying your name as Paradis. It just has
French. The only thing is, because it's a French name, you don't pronounce anything after the last vowel, so it's Paradis.
Oh, really? So I did not know that.
Yeah, everything in French stops at the vowel.
Interesting. So I can do that, Paradis.
But of course, look at
But
me. I'm a musketeer. But of
dude, we
course,
can do this. Oh, you're gonna get an entire hour of that shit tonight.
I still got
But
worse.
no, so seriously though, so and if you see me, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but if you see me looking to my left, that's because that's where all my notes are on my other screen. So don't think that I'm doing anything weird. So just want to make sure I've got all this correct. So how long has Project Equinox been a thing?
Officially 2009, 2009.
So 2009, you started Project Equinox.
Yep.
And for those that don't know, you can check out what Andre's got going on. It's projectequinox.net, not .com, .net, N-E-T. You can see what he's got going on. But what is so give everybody kind of your background that takes you into this world of helping people understand the difference between communication and genders.
Well, I have 3 phases to my life. I have 3 stories literally to my life. It's like 1, 2, and 3. This is phase I call phase number 3, where I'm doing this work full time. But it started when I was a little kid. I was I realized at 5 years old I was born in the wrong family, which is very strange and very scary and factual though. So like what happened is
what does that mean? What does that even mean?
I was 5 years old and I felt a way my whole life. But then when I was 5, when you actually have a brain, right, you start computing at 5, because before 5 years old, there's no words. It's just reactive. Like you can't, your logic is limited. So by 5, which is standard, when I could connect my thoughts with my feelings, how I felt in this setting, I realized, click, I'm born in the wrong family. Like, so all I could tell you is I felt out of place from the get go, but it was confirmed that day. I remember exactly what happened. I didn't belong here. I just did not belong with these people. I was wrong. I was born in the wrong family, which is bizarre and scary, but it was visceral. I didn't belong there. I was this black sheep and is like trying to act like he's not alive type thing. Like,
wow.
So now I kind of peeled it back over the years. I was an accident. My mother hated being pregnant. At the time, she was pregnant with me because I'm not supposed to be there. So I was born when I'm not supposed to be here, literally. And
so that energy kind of translated
straight through. And also that's how they treated me when I was here. So when I got here, so it kind of, okay, whatever. But what happened is that I started like at 5, I started my awareness my radar, I called it, kind of just turned outwards and started watching everyone, trying to figure out what the hell is going on. Do you know what I mean? My circumstances, but I kind of, what? So I've been watching people since then. So my brain has always been tuned, on the outside, literally looking out. With that, I became fascinated with the human condition. Human beings are like just fascinating to me. Like as I'm watching, even as a kid, I was a kid always in the corner watching everyone, observing. And then after a while, it's interesting. I developed this ability to be able to tap into people. So I could focus on somebody and actually feel what they're feeling, what they're going through emotionally. So it's kind of like I think we could all do this. I think I've just been watching and focusing on that for so long. It's really great for my work, by the way. Helps a lot. But so fascinated with the human condition. And so that was my go-to. Trying to figure out my life. Why, how can, what am I doing here then? I didn't really think I was going to be here long, honestly, because I was sad and kind of out of place and really not knowing why I was here. But I always had this like the little tug in my heart saying, nah, dude, you're here for something big. You just don't know yet. So it just kept me going, but it was challenging. With that, at the age of 23, I started taking personal development workshops, trying to get a grasp on me, life, things. Who am I? How?
Person.
Yeah, like just trying to decode and trying to get ahead of myself. It's just because I didn't have it. So that was like sort of always a thing. At the time, I was a professional dancer. Became a professional dancer in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I went to a fancy high school, and in the PE program, you had options like you can't believe because it's a private school. And a young woman came to me the week to register for classes. It was the last year of high school, but it was set up like a college where you go in to pick your own classes, and you're kind of an adult responsible for your whatever. But this young girl came up to me. I knew her from the other school, and she comes up to me that week when we register, she goes, oh my God, you want to take ballroom dancing with me? I go, what? She goes, I want to take ballroom. We have offer ballroom, but I need to have a partner. They don't sign up. You have to sign up as a
We
couple.
sign
I'm
in as
like,
couples.
right. So I mean, this cute little thing this big, right? I'm the invisible guy. I'm like, yeah. So, duh. So that was like phase one of my life. Because what happened is that week, the week after when we started dancing, I'll never forget, in the gym, because that's where we had class. I hold the girl in my hands, my arms. Never done that in my life. I'm barely 16 years old, if I am. And this was, revelation number one. Everything the teacher was teaching, it was right on my right. I could copy it instantly. Just
Oh,
copy it,
really? Like
copy it.
your feet just knew it.
Like, I've seen this before. You were just reminding me, like, which is bizarre because I never seen any of that before.
So, like when
So,
people say they can play like mute, like a savant with music, you were a savant with dancing.
but again, my eyes were used to watching and observing all the time. So, part of that ability as well is that when I see something, I decode it. I don't know how to explain it. So, whatever his feet did, my feet had it because I could see the pattern on the floor.
Interesting.
Interesting, right? So, so that was like sort of a gift that I didn't know I had, right? And what happened is the guy who was invisible and the geek in class, right, for his entire like life, all of a sudden, within 4 months, I'm a star because I became the teacher's assistant because I could help as a male because the males are the leaders, right, in ballroom. All the girls want to dance with me because I could dance, and the other guys are struggling because they're normal. So I go from invisible to like star, and then we start performing. So that was sort of interesting, and I did this for 3 years, and then I moved to the West Coast where there was no ballroom. So I ended up in a
Really?
jazz studio. There was no ballroom back on the
Jazz
West
hands.
Coast. No one. Jazz hands, boom, leg warmers and headbands and shit.
But I gotta
That's
pause you for a second. Can I pause
yeah,
you
yeah,
for
of course.
so I want to go back to this ballroom dancing for a second. And you've kind of hit something that as we're older men in today,
Yep.
and I look back at some of those things and I think to myself, like one of my sons was like, he was asking about he actually said he wanted to learn to dance. I said, son, go for it. He goes, are you serious? And he's a little guy. I was like, yes, son. There is nothing like if you can dance, every wedding, every party, every gathering, you will never be without a partner. Some woman will come and find you, and you get to spend your entire time with women who are going to be like, oh, like
You got it. You got it.
my grandmother and grandfather, they were both well into their 90s when they passed, and they used to spend every Friday polka dancing. They would go to the Polish Falcon and polka dance.
Yep.
Now, Brian, one of our loyal watchers here, I don't know if crip walking is considered as dancing, Brian, but I mean, go with it. It's taking you 3 years. You'll get it. You'll get it. So you move. So now, why did you move to the West Coast?
I was by then I was finished with my family. I just couldn't even stand being close to them. So I tried to go as far as I could. I went completely as far as I could in Canada because I'm Canadian. So I ended up in Vancouver. There's no ballroom. That's all I want to do, by the way, because the part of the kind of dancing saved my life because I was kind of a miserable kid. And when I started dancing, like the music, the movement, when you blend music and movement together and they come together, it kind of lifts your spirit. It kind of, oh, right. So that's all I wanted to do. Like, that's the only thing I wanted to do. Forget school, forget grades. All I want to do is dance to like should give me some life. Literally, it was giving me life. It was giving me life, So 3 years of this stuff was great. My parents hated it because they're like, "What are you gonna do for a living? Dance?" Right? Because fair enough, right?
Right.
But again, it was keeping me here, dude. It was keeping me here. So when I moved away to get away from them, because I had to, like I said, I wanted to keep breathing. So no ballroom in Vancouver. It was everywhere back east, everywhere in
And when
the
you say
West
back
Coast.
east, where were you at? Montreal or Toronto?
I was in Quebec City. Yeah,
Quebec City. Okay.
So Quebec City, every club, everybody was ball dancing. We used to look. I was underage, and me and my buddy, because there's another guy who ended up joining the class who became one of the, like, me, him, and the teacher. We're like the dudes, but me and him, we used to go with our fake IDs, break into clubs, ballroom clubs, to swing the old ladies around. This is how much rebels we were.
Like, I don't know. I don't know if any. Listen, hold on,
Yeah.
Andre, because that's the greatest statement I've ever heard in my in like forever. Like most people be like, dude, I was breaking into the clubs to go see like CBGB, to go see like a punk rock band. You were like, dude, we was breaking into the clubs because we was swinging milfs around at 16.
Totally. And drinking orange juice,
Greatest.
drinking orange juice with fake IDs and just dancing the
Oh,
old ladies on. But you know what? We were
my-
practicing. We could practice on different bodies, different size, and we made their day. They're like, "Oh my goodness, you're a young man who can dance!" And blah, blah. So when you say if you could dance as a male, all the doors open. I mean, you have no
thousands
idea.
of that.
It's ridiculous. Right? It's like even when I got older, all I had to do go to a club and dance because it kind of gave me a certain swag with regular just club dancing, and I never had to say anything. I just danced. And
And I can't
and
imagine, and women were probably at that point were like, oh, there's a guy. I mean, we
constantly,
joked around about your
constantly.
hair. You're well put together, man. You seem to carry yourself well. So that in and of itself, and that's a confidence booster to be able to be in that environment
Right.
and build your confidence up.
Yep.
Eh, so now you're on the
On
left
the
coast.
West Coast. On the West Coast, there's nothing happening. I end up in a jazz studio, right? Jazz hands and leg warmers. I'm like, that's not what I do. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But
Fair,
then
fair.
I had a roommate. I was working at IKEA furniture before IKEA was in the United States because it was in Vancouver. Anyway, so I'm working at IKEA, and my roommate, a girl, one morning, because we used to go clubbing, me and her, and dancing all the time. And she's like, "You need to dance. You built to dance. You're supposed to dance. You're not dancing. You need to dance. You must dance." So one Saturday morning, she woke me up early and she said, "We're going to that studio that you found, the one that I found that does jazzercise." And right. So we went, I took class. It's an hour of body conditioning and then 30 minutes of dancing. You know what I mean? It's all stretching, flexibility, exercise, strength, alignment. Right. A jazz class is all about it's 2/3 exercise and strengthening exercises, stretching, which we don't do in ballroom. In ballroom, you change your shoes. So, but that was interesting, right? That was
Right.
interesting. So I loved the challenge. I was sore for a week. I could hardly walk after my first class because I tried too hard.
Okay.
But that became like, hey, this is a challenge. This is interesting, and I love the sweating, the endorphins, the dopamine, the feeling good, music. All right, so okay, let's do this then. So really quickly, and this is a long story, so I'm gonna shortcut it because we'll never get anywhere with that story. But what happened is, within 3 months, I was working construction sites, right, and then on twice a week, at the end of the day, I was in a jazz class, right? Kind of getting my fix of feeling good, right? Twice a week. So within 3 months, I ended up getting a scholarship from the studio. Like, okay, that's weird, right? Because in 3 months of jazz dancing, you can't hardly
Right.
do
Right.
anything, right? But I had been dancing since, by about 4 years, ballroom. So some of the stuff, I guess, transpired. I don't know. I can't tell you. All I can tell you is I got scholarship after scholarship after scholarship after scholarship. It never stopped. I even got a scholarship in the ballet studio because at one point when I thought, if I want to do this, I really got to get serious. And everybody's like, if you're going to be serious about dancing, making a career, you got to go back to the basics, the basis ballet, right? The alignment,
Okay.
the strength, right? Like football players take ballet for Christ's sake. That's how
Yeah.
hard it is, right? I'm like, okay, so I go audit a class at a studio that was local. That's all they did was ballet. I'm not a ballet dancer, right? I'm barely a jazz dancer, and I'm a ballroom dancer. I got a scholarship, first class, I think. So it kind of took me this thing that I had, whichever it was, but I understood when I got the scholarship in the ballet studio because I looked at him like, what? He goes, you don't get it, do you? I go, I no. He goes, you are built for this. You
You
are
just have the
built for
physique and
this.
the body
Your
for it.
skeleton, your turnout, your feet, right? Like your proportion, ratio, waist, shoulder, blah. He goes, you're built for this. You're built for this. And you got a turnout like nobody has turnout. I have a natural turnout.
What does
The
that mean?
feet turnout is when you turn your feet outwards from your
Oh,
hips, right? So ballerinas always trying to do this with their feet, but normal people like this, like this. So my feet go backwards even. My hips go backwards. So it's a challenge from all dancers to get their feet to turn out from their hips. It takes years of I just had it. Okay, so
You're just born with it.
it was born with all of it. So this is when I kind of put it all together, all these opportunities, because part of it I could do it. I had the talent to do it and copy, but the body was also that's what they saw. Okay, so that's when I decided maybe I should make a living at this or try to make a living at this because my parents are like, good luck, and I thought it made no sense either. How do you make money at dancing? Stupid, right? I was supposed to go to school, be an architect, but I got away from there. So I thought, you know what, this seems to be pulling me that way. I'm just going to kind of give it a couple of years. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen, and if it's not, then at least I could say I tried. You know what I mean?
Right.
Otherwise, right? Because otherwise, I'm not going to beat myself up the rest of my life thinking why didn't I try? Right? So
You do realize you are the Canadian John Travolta Saturday Night Fever, right? Except with disco, you have jazz swing dance. Like you realize that, right?
yeah,
Like doing construction by day and then like ballroom dancing by night. You are the Canadian John Travolta and you got good hair and Saturday
that's
Night
a new
Fever.
one. That's
So
a new one. Thank you.
you are very welcome. That's all I could see is like you in the morning, like doing. Or no, that wasn't. What was the one where they? No, that was where she
Staying
gets
alive. Staying
she
alive.
gets splashed by the water.
Oh, flash dance. Flash
Flash
dance.
dance because
Yep.
she'd work construction during the
Yeah,
day.
yeah. And at night,
There it
yeah.
is. Canadian flash dance.
Oy.
There it is. I knew there was
Anywho,
so that was part 2. So you're a professional
so
dancer.
I made it. Basically, I went. I was trained. I gave it a couple of years. Sure enough, it took me completely. And like I have my own Hollywood story. I'm Canadian, but there was a lot of people going from the United States to Canada doing. Yeah, it's like in the world of dance, like people travel and there's summer programs. We have guest teachers from United States, from Los Angeles. So one of the guest teachers used to come up to us all the time in Vancouver. I was always assisting him when he was in town because he teaches summer school. You teach like 4 or 5 classes a day, right? You just like you need an assistant because you're gonna
Right, it's a lot.
fry, you're gonna die. So I was assisting him when he was in town, and so that last summer, he said to me, in a month, I'm putting my demo reel. Right, like choreographers put demo reels together, like actors put their demo reel together to give their agents to pass around, right? So he's like, next at the end of the month, next month, I'm doing my demo reel. I want you to come to LA and be dance captain and work and just wrangle be dance captain in charge of the dancers and rehearsal and all that stuff. He goes, come down for a couple of weeks, bring your girlfriend. You can stay in my house, have an extra bedroom, make it a holiday, but I really need your help. Sure. So we end up going to Los Angeles, me and my girl. Thursday nights when we get in town. Friday we did rehearsal. I got introduced to everybody, blah, blah, blah. Saturday night at the studio, there was a party for dancers, a local Los Angeles party for dancers. The people that I want to be part of, right? So, cool, right? So this is 2 days after we got in town. At this party, there's at least a couple hundred people my age. Everybody's like 25 years old, young dancers, professionals, blah, blah, blah. But throughout mid-evening, there was an older man in the space that didn't belong there, obviously, right? So he's like 55 or so. And as I'm dancing with my girl, he's on my left. And every time I look that way, he's looking at me.
It wasn't P. Diddy, right?
No.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, thank you. So, once, twice, 3 times, then I realized, oh God, we're in LA. Okay, I'm dancing with a girl, right? So I'm just saying, that's what it was doing, right? So anyway, so my buddy then who asked me to come down, right, to help him. Now and that time, I turned around at the time, and the 2 of them are talking together because they knew each other, obviously. But now they're talking about me, which is obvious. I'm like, what the hell is he doing?
Right.
What is he doing, dude? I'm getting a little bit bent out of shape.
Right.
He waves me over, like, come here. I'm like, what in the mother of? And back then I was still young and polite, so I came over. Today I would just flip him off. So I like, and he introduced me to the old man. I turned my head when I shook his hand, and so because I'm like, what are you doing?
Right. What's going on here?
So he then looked at the older gentleman. His name was Steve Merritt. He goes, Steve, can you hold on 1 second? And he grabs me by the elbow, throws me outside because the back door was next to us. He goes, dude, what the this is Steve Merritt. He's got a national show. He lost a dancer 4 months ago. He can't find somebody else to replace the guy he lost 4 months ago. He wants to hire you. How about you say hi to Steve? So I go back inside. Hey, nice to meet you. Right. So, but I was in town 2 days, and he hired me to do a national tour. And I literally, we got rehearsal on Monday, and 3 weeks later, we're on the road. Gone. My first professional job.
I just looked this guy up real quick.
Yeah.
Because
Steve Merritt. Yeah.
Together with Nancy and Ronnie Horowitz and Mark Donnelly, Merritt created the musical Dream Street. Was that the one?
Yep.
So you were on Dream Street, played in Vegas from 83 to 87. Merritt
yeah. Go ahead.
I'm reading this. Also convinced the Broadway style format for Chippendale show.
That's it. That's my show. That's why
you were Chippendale.
I was.
Man, my mom might have saw you in your underwear back in the day.
Maybe. But what happened is actually, because Chippendales has the show. There was a Chippendales in Los Angeles. There was Chippendales in New York City, right? The clubs.
Right.
There was 2 touring companies. So I got hired to join the East Coast touring company. And again, there's 6 strippers on the road and 4 backup dancers. But the backup dancers have to look like the strippers on some level. So that's why he's having a hard time finding somebody, right? My hair wasn't as long at the time, but I was super fit, super lean, super ripped, right? So, okay, so that's why he's good, because dancers don't look like that, right? Like regular dancers are skinny. Anyway, so that was my first job, which is amazing. I did for a year and a half. That's when after a while, and then I'm a dancer, I'm not a stripper, and it's just a gig. It's not getting me anywhere, right? So after a year and a half of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I just need to get back to my life, right? Because you're
skipping over, like you're talking early days of Chippendale too.
Well, 91.
Okay, 91. So it was time then. So
it was big. Peak, it was prime time. It was prime time. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like what would we're gonna get into the folks. If you got questions for Andre Paradis, please ask. Like, we were supposed to be talking about gender
relationships
and relationships, and he is just telling me this entire part of the story where I'm like, wait a sec, like you were at the peak of when that was
the shit. Yeah, that was the shit.
All right, you're gonna have to come back, and we're gonna have to talk about that.
We could talk.
I want to really hear about, like, right now. Don't take it wrong, brother, but I want to hear about that. Like what was that year and a half like being immersed in that world where truly, listen, my only quick story was I've been to plenty of strip clubs as a Marine, and I remember one time being at one in Florida where they had a permanent strip club, women stripping, and then once a month they would have male strippers come in, and they had a big like a partition, and then when the partition was done, when they were done, they would remove the partition, and those women that were in there the time I went were ferocious, like
out of control.
The music played, and it was like it was a different animal. Like, if you don't know, folks, like in a male strip club, 9 out of 10 men were sitting on our hands looking like imbeciles because we're like, she might like me, she talked to me. Women in a strip club are like, give me him now, he is mine. Like, it's a different animal.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Yeah.
All right, so all right, we're gonna jump forward so we can talk about
we can talk about it later.
Oh my God, bro, that's like a whole thing. That's incredible. So how do we get to Project Equinox? Orchid's already got a question for you about healthy relationships, and that falls right into communication. And look, folks, if you want to know also, you can check out projectequinox.net, see what Andre's got going on. So how do we get from stripping in the 90s, when you didn't strip, you were a backup dancer, I understand, but to relationship counseling and communication and teaching men and women how to talk to each other?
Right. So throughout the whole thing, constantly curious about people, constantly asking questions about people, constantly trying to understand why somebody is that right. So, and I was taking personal development workshops, like I said, all the time, constantly. So when I get off the road, because as a fine-tuned machine that my body was, because I trained so much on the road, you don't train on the road, you perform, but your training, your strength, your alignment kind of slips. So the longer I was on the road, even though I was making money, I felt like I was slipping away from everything I'd worked for. So eventually, when I started, and that story we'll talk about when we talk about that part of my life, like
You're
the
coming
the
back, God.
the development of that, like what happened to me is anyway. So after a year and a half, I realized how dangerous that lifestyle was. Um, and I started to believe stuff because of the environment that we're in. 20 24/7, and how kind of it starts twisting your mind. So I remember thinking though, so I'm slipping away here, and I'm starting to act like Kevin, who's out of his freaking mind. So I need to get out of here. So I quit, and they just thought I was crazy for quitting. It's the best job in the world. I'm like, no, it's a job. I'm going back to my life. So I went back to I flew to Los Angeles. I got established. I got an agent. Ended up working with Michael Jackson, Prince, Paula Abdul, Julio Iglesias. I traveled the world, right? So that's how the dancing that my parents were so afraid of took me all the way. So yeah, apparently you can make a living at this stuff because I did. So that was awesome. So I did it for about 15 years. If you consider starting from high school, then it was probably 20 years altogether. Travel the world, right? Dancing, performing, teaching. Put a concert together in Thailand for the pop star. I produced I choreographed and produced their concert. So I think I did pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with
Right.
that.
So part of the lifestyle as a professional dancer is you perform, you come back to town, and you teach. And then because it's downtime between gigs, right? So like actors, so you go away, you perform, you come back, you teach. Like so for a few weeks at a time as you go away. So this coming back and forth, coming back and forth. Very easy to fill up a class when you just finished dancing with Michael Jackson. You get it? So
Yeah.
that's the model. Met my wife in my class. I was surrounded with 50 beautiful young girls every day of my life, 2, 3 times a day, 6 days a week. Looking for a girl because after life on the road, I realized I'm more traditional than I even thought I was. Right? Turned out that my frame is actually quite traditional. So then, but after all this fun on the road, even in Los Angeles, a few months, I'm like, I want to find somebody special. And sure enough, my wife comes in, and the moment I saw her, that was it. That was 30 years ago. She's still my baby today, right? So, but when she was a professional. She's still a professional ballerina. So she's still performing today and teaching and mentoring her dance company and her students at the colleges, 2 colleges. So she's still living her dream, right, of dancing. But she was in Los Angeles to whatever. So we met. We got married. We both were performing all over the world, right? One time we crossed in the air. She was going to China. I was coming back from Japan. And we crossed the same day up in the air. So kind of wild, fun. But eventually I wanted children. She was afraid of that. She's a ballerina. It's going to ruin her career. So it took a few years for me to convince her. But when we decided to start a family, that's when I quit, like the road altogether. I was not going to be absent from my kids, like my dad was. All right. So by design, I told my agent I'm not traveling any longer. If the work is not in Los Angeles, don't bother. Right. She lost her mind. She lost her mind because the model is there's more work on the outside typically.
I think it's probably an industry where everything is travel related. It's nothing.
Always you get the job here and you travel out. You go do it, right? All over Asia. Anyway, so
it starts in LA and then just goes wherever.
Yep. There's stuff in LA, but it's television, movies, you know what I mean? And so it's a different beast a little bit, but it's always a movie, television, commercials. Yeah. All of that. But the big stuff is always away, seemingly. Anyway, interesting. So she's like, well, how your money is my money. I go, I'm starting a family. So I'm a car guy. You don't know this about me. I was like, one of the things that my family, I have 3 brothers. We're all car maniacs. So I opened a car shop to stay grounded.
Again, when you say car shop, like a mechanic shop?
No,
or
auto body shop.
Okay.
and we restore classics out of classic cars. I have 6, right? So that was sort of my way of making a living, staying grounded,
What's your grill?
be able to raise my kids and really kind of enjoy what I'm doing because I love
What's your grill
cars.
car? Andre, what's your grill car? What is it?
Oh God, I have 6, but I mean, my
What's your
favorite.
grill? Like for you, like to have
Me, all right, all right. It's the 1964 Lincoln convertible suicide door. President Kennedy's car, but not a stretch
Yep,
limousine, the standard
I
4
get
door.
it. For me, it's a
Whew.
Yanko Camaro.
Yep, I get you. I
I
get you.
don't care what year, preferably 68, 69,
Yep, yep,
but
yep,
but a Yanko Camaro with the embroidered YK has to have the embroidered
yep,
YK
yep,
in
yep.
the headrest. For me, it's a Yanko.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, I'm stuck on the classic mid '60s big fins
Oh, I love 'em.
cruisers, the
Oh, there's
big
nothing.
cruisers,
I
right?
I
So
just did a job for a client who has a 71 Cadillac Fleetwood Black
yeah,
and is getting ready to pick up a 76
yep,
mint Cadillac. I don't remember. I think it was a DeVille, but don't quote me on
right.
that.
But like to me, it's early '60s. That the '62 Cadillac is beautiful. The '59 is a classic, of course, but it's kind of outrageous in every way. And I mean, so I like the big fins. I have 2 Chrysler Imperials, the '65 with the funky like Art Deco design inside outside is so freaking cool. And anyway, so that's the big fins. The only one that have this a sports car is the little Jaguar. So everything else is just a big American boat. 2 Tornadoes.
You're restoring cars.
Yeah, I'm restoring cars. Get this. My business is 6 minutes from my house, and the
Beautiful.
kids' school are 2 blocks away. So me and my wife, this by design, we're at every recital, every Christmas parade, every event, every freaking thing was both of us in the audience. Something I never experienced myself, but that's who I want to be, right? So 2 kids, life again, personal development workshops. Doing cars in Los Angeles is not a lack of interest there in Los Angeles. It's a
Oh yeah,
city of
absolutely.
cars. In 2006, this is transition number 2. So dancing to, car business, stage 2 of my life. Stage 3 kicks in this way. I went to, of course, a business workshop up in San Jose, which is Northern California. I flew to San Jose up north, which is right under San Francisco. 3-day workshop to get my business, like production up because I was as far as I could take it with my brain. So I'm learning anyway. So on the flight back to Los Angeles, I'm sitting with a couple that I met over those 3 days. Right, they're also from Los Angeles. So this is another pivotal moment in my life, and that's when I stopped. That's when I stopped believing that life was random. It is my whole life just lines up like an arrow without me trying, which is bizarre. Bizarre. So I'm still on the plane and the lady says to me, she goes, "What do you do next weekend?" I go, "Next weekend I'm free." Why? She goes, "You want to come to a workshop? It's on me." I'm like, "Of course." Because those things are
Right.
expensive. It's on her.
Absolutely.
I'm going to learn something if it's something I'm not interested in, but I'm curious about everything. So I'm going to learn some stuff. Then I asked the question, "What's it about?" She goes, "Oh, it's called Understanding Women." Understanding women. Okay. Okay. So for me, when I tell that story, my friends are always like, "There's such a thing as there's no such thing. You can understand women, right?" So that's not the reaction I had for me because I look the way I look and I'm artistic, right? I I thought I knew something. Really, honestly, I thought I knew something because I always attracted sweet women like my wife. You meet my wife, you go, "Oh wow, oh I get it, I get it." Like just looking at her, like her energy, her femininity, like her beauty, like she's a beautiful person inside and outside, right? Like so I've always attracted that type. So I never did the crazy stuff that my friend did and the yelling and the shit. I'm like, what? What's the problem? Well, so now I'm going to spend a weekend freaking in the workshop understanding women. And I think, oh, really? Like, damn, I could be anywhere else, right? Like, I got this. Again, no arrogance, just kind of
Right.
my experience, right? So I thought it was going to be cute. And I remember Saturday morning, I'd get in my car. I'm driving to the airport because I'm with a major hotel by the airport, 40-minute drive. I'm like, I want to sleep in. But I said I was going to be there. And I remember when I walked in, like thinking again, it's going to be cute. There was 400 people in the space. And I
Oh
like the
shit.
vibe. I remember going, oh,
Now, were you like the only dude there, or was it a
well,
pretty mixed
no.
crowd?
It's actually, it was only 100 men and 300 women. Like,
Okay,
what the hell?
some
Like, if you
smart
had a
guy.
right. A lot of guys, but a lot of women. And I
But
remember
I'm saying
thinking,
smart guys, like any man that would go to something like that. Listen,
yeah, I'm
uh,
gonna say,
at my age, I understand like that the value of something like that would have been in my life
yep,
earlier on. Like
yep,
when I was younger, you'd have said that to me, like understanding women. I'd been like, dude, all I need to understand is that, like, I'd have been that
yep,
guy.
yep, yep, yep.
But now at this age, I'm like, I'd have looked at me back then and been like, listen, asshole,
Right, chill.
go to
Right.
this. It's
Go
gonna
learn something. Go learn
you'll
something,
learn.
right? So for me, all I could tell you is I walked in and I realized like something. There was something like uh not not cute. Something serious is
Special.
going on here. There was something special going on here. So sure enough, there's women sitting all around. They actually managed to sit the women around all the men for a purpose because they would constantly stop the workshop and go, just so we don't. The workshop leader would say, just so you don't think it's me who's crazy. Check the women around you. It's like 5 minutes, right? And dude, all I can tell you is the guy who thinks he knew women. By then, I'm married. I have two little kids. Right? Not looking for this information. Not looking for this work.
Right.
It's working for us, right? Like everything is good.
You're good.
Walk in this workshop. I slipped off my chair 7 times over the workshop. Slipped off of
Like
my
physically
chair
fell.
on the ground with disbelief. I'm pretty dramatic. I fall off my chair. Like I'm one of those, right? If you make me laugh and
I couldn't
surprise me,
imagine you're a dramatic person. I couldn't
yeah,
imagine.
no, right? No, yes, very big shock. My little brother's favorite thing to do is to surprise me because when you surprise me, I fall to the floor. Like I
Oh,
just literally fall down. Like anyway, so fall to the floor, step off my chair, same freaking thing. But yeah, the things that I learned that weekend, I just dude, it was insane, you know. And every time that we take a 5 minute break to check with the ladies around us, it was always the same thing. And I go like, no, and they go, yeah. How is that possible? That's fucking crazy. That's how we are. Sometimes we are kind of crazy. We feel we're crazy, and confirming, and like it was like so. What came out of that for me is I was completely blindsided. My brain exploded realized no, I knew nothing about women. Now, what was dangerous to me is that also meant that I knew nothing about my wife, my lovely princess, who's with me by then like 8 years or so. Right?
you're
What
in
is it
love.
that I'm right?
Share
Yeah,
with me.
no, totally. It's beautiful, but I mean, what am I doing to her that I don't know I'm doing to her? Because now understand a whole lot of things that I never even thought about because my brain is not like hers. And decoding, oh my goodness, I realized that was dangerous to not know this stuff. You know, all my brothers and sisters are divorced 2, 3, and 4 times. I have my family, I have my angel, I have my wife, and I'm not going to be a liability because I didn't know. Right. So that's how it started. I took all the company's curriculum, all their workshops. As soon as you take the workshop, the first round, you pay for them, but you can come back and assist the workshops for free, right? To help them. So then I get to hear the material again and again and again and again. So that's how it started.
Reinforcing.
I became completely obsessed because the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know, and the more they don't know, the more like I want to know the rest of it. And so that's how it started. So there was this company I started. I became a workshop leader for them. Like I was in training to lead workshops for them because I'm a teacher. You know what I mean? That was a natural
I want to
progression.
talk to your wife right now because I would love to know Andre going to that workshop, coming back from that
Yep.
workshop, what was it a different person that she was experiencing right away?
Well, she said when I came home from that workshop, and that's fact, I was white as a ghost. I was so
Did you feel
like
like embarrassed, like you had done something wrong?
no, I felt like a dumbass, and I realized how in not knowing this, how dangerous it was. Like I was afraid that would become a freaking statistic because I knew nothing about her, and I realized how dangerous that was. Like the thought
Okay.
of losing her just because I didn't know, and because one of
Right.
the things that I learned, one of the 7 things falling out of the chair, is that we all know this. Women take things personally. We don't know why. We don't take things personally that they take personally. So like there's a baffle, right? That's one of them. So get this, decoded that one of the 7 moments that to a woman, when we heard their feelings, right? When we heard their feelings, it is so obvious that you don't say or do that, right? It is so obvious that we, man, this is them talking inside of them. We must know what we're doing. which then also means that we're doing it on purpose. Think about this.
Say it again.
So where we hurt their feelings, they think that we know we're doing it, which means also that we're doing it on purpose. Because if I know I'm doing it, then I'm doing it to her because I want to piss her off. I want to make her mad. I want to, right? So this is what appears to them, right? That's never what we're trying to do, right? Because we hurt their feelings by stuff that we don't know we're doing.
Like typically for a man, emotions aren't a weapon for us. We're not using emotions as weapons.
Right.
And look, folks, I typically you would hear me right now say we're getting close to closing the bar. We're probably if Andre can, we're gonna stay a little bit longer because his story at the beginning is an entire show on its own. If he's okay, can you stay?
I have the space. Oh, I have the space. It's the end of the day for me. I'm done. Okay. So
we're gonna stay a little bit longer, but you're absolutely men don't use emotions. Typically men don't use emotions as a weapon.
Some do, but yeah,
some may. But I mean, Brian's on here. He says the hardest thing about putting in work is the fact that tomorrow she can leave. And you know what? I get what you're saying, Brian, because most of us, when we finally put in the work, it's already, we've probably not known what Andre is telling us. So we're at the back end of it, trying to be the little Dutch boy, putting our fingers all over the dam. And he says, this hits home for me tonight. Great show. I appreciate you. And Orchid, I promise we're getting to your question.
Yeah, no, we are. We're going to get to the question. So for me, if you understand, like just that one thing, right? There was like 7 of them, maybe 8, and there's stuff in between. Imagine this for a second. If my wife thinks that I'm hurting her feelings and I know what I'm doing it on purpose, how long until she hates me?
Right.
That's what we all experience. But again, what hurts her feelings, we're blind to. The same way that, by the way, they disrespect us all the time and they're blind to it. So we constantly trip each other's wires, but we don't know we're doing it. But to them, if you consider like their processing, right, how they process things, they think we're doing it on purpose. So that's why I panic when I get home. I'm not gonna. What am I doing to her that I have no idea I'm doing? It's not my intention. I mean, none of us, if you're normal male, none of us wants to hurt their woman's feelings for fun.
Right.
But that's what it looks like to them. Because it's so obvious to them. Like, you don't say this, you don't not say this, you don't do this, you don't not do this, right? It's what you do, what you don't do, what you say, what you don't say, hurts their feeling. Because they're hyperly focused on what our like everything we do has a meaning to them. Everything we say has a backlash meaning to them. We'll talk about communication, right? Like when I say is not what women hear. What men say is not what women hear. And when men speak, women don't hear what we said. But
say that one more. Say that one more. Because it's such a profound thing that you just said. Say it one more time.
It's part of the collision between men and women. We speak and listen differently. When I speak to a woman, she's not hearing what I said. She's hearing, what's he trying to tell me here? Because that's how they speak to each other. But we speak directly. So what I say is what I mean, right? The women don't speak directly. So when they talk to us, it's always in hints and innuendos and tones of voice. It's not what you said, it's the way you said it. That's how they make the meaning of thing, not the words, the energy, the intention behind it. So they speak in hints and innuendos because that's how they speak to each other. They're completely aware of what they're doing. So when we speak to
hurt each other's feelings,
right? They always speak in the flow and sweet, right? So when we speak to them directly, which they don't know we're doing because they think we speak like them. So I say something, and their first thought is, "What's he trying to tell me? What does he mean by that?" Right? An example of this: I had a friend. I was on a radio interview, and the guy asked me this question about why women take everything personally. Right? And I said, well, give me an example. And he goes, well, I like to chew gum. I'm always chewing gum. So I have gum on me all the time. So when I change stick, I go in my pocket, I grab the pack. If there's a woman in front of me, I offer a stick of gum first. That's polite. Right? It says every time I do, they go, what? Is something wrong with my breath? What are you telling me? Right? And it's factual. And again, these are the things that we go, why do you take that personally? I'm just being a gentleman. But to them, every action and every word and every communication is, what are you trying to tell me? Because that's how they speak together. You see it? It's a complete mind fuck.
That makes perfect sense to me. As a guy, if you offer me a piece of gum, I would probably take it and put it in my mouth and be like, does my breath stink, bro? Like I would ask you directly, like, does my breast stink? Not like
I
an
wouldn't even
emotional
think of that. I wouldn't even think of that. I would say thanks for
oh,
the gum. Like
my
there would be
friend said
no
the
meaning except he's sharing. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't try to decode it. Yeah,
that's
he pulls
amazing.
scum out of his pocket. So
That's
like shit
amazing.
like this is constant. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my god.
So the way they speak is not where the way they speak is not what we're hearing, and when the way we speak is not what they're hearing. They're kind of trying to decode what we're saying, which is how else typically things go to shit because they're always going to make the worst case scenario for what we're saying.
Right.
That's part of their wiring. It's not their fault, right? So this is what I'm talking about. This is complete madness. So that workshop, like that was one of them. Like that's why I was afraid if I didn't get this, I was going to screw up my marriage. And I saw my brothers and sister do it. I mean, I'm not doing that. So it became a frenzy for me to learn all this. And the more I learned, the more there was to learn. And after this company, because I studied with 5 masters: Dr. John Gray, Mars and Venus, Esther Perel, New York City, Dr. Pat Allen is a family child marriage therapist in Los Angeles. 3.5 years in private quarters studying with her. 46 years of therapy
Wow.
passed on, right? Shanti Falhan in the South about love and respect. Both men and women want love and respect, but they occur completely backwards and again, completely opposition, even though we both want the same thing. And then the lady in Los Angeles, the first one was Alison Armstrong, all about anthropology. So the more I learn, the more I want to learn. And I moved from master to master to master over the years, got all the information and now my own research. So what I have is I can explain to you men and women from all aspects of life: chemistry, nature, anthropology, psychology, like, and they all connect. It's kind of fantastic. So that's my work. That's how we got here.
So, brother, that's absolutely incredible to me. I got to ask this question.
Yeah.
So in your experience, so you've been doing this. You said was it
2009.
2009? So we're 15 going on
Yep.
16 years
Yep.
of doing this. One of the things that I recently, so you talked about earlier about personal development. I'm a big Brendan Burchard fan. I don't know if you
Oh
know.
yeah, like I was at his event last one.
Oh, were you? Oh
Right,
God, I would
yeah,
love.
I did 2 live with him in San Jose, right,
Oh
right
my
before
God, I
COVID.
would love to go to a live, but
Rocking,
they're all
rocking shit, just rocking, just
dude. Like it's all on the left coast though, and I'm on the right coast,
right,
and
right, right.
and to go out there and look, folks, I get paid nothing for this. Go check out Growth Day. That's his app. I listen to it every morning. It just kind of sets the tone for my day. I listen
Yeah,
to a Bible verse and then I listen to Growth Day and it sets the tone for my day. That's how you end up with this guy right
good
here
for you.
who wasn't always this guy, but he talked a little bit in his book, the high performance habits,
Hmm.
about that nature and nurture isn't necessarily a real thing. Like people aren't naturally, gifted in certain areas. You really have to nurture every behavior.
Yeah,
In your experience with this, what are some of the things that people have nurtured at a young age watching their parents,
mm.
how men and women communicate, that are either it's so difficult for us to break, or how do they break those habits? Because that's where we learn how men and women communicate originally, is watching
Yep,
our parents
yeah.
communicate.
But there's one layer beyond that I want to bring
Please.
forth is because it's not really the parenting modeling that we saw that's often very poor because people, my parents' generation, they didn't think about anything, talk about anything. Do you know what I mean? You went to work, she shut the hell up, she made the food, she did the laundry, right? Once in a while they fought because they never talk, right? So there was the modeling was dad works and mom is taking care of the house and nobody needs to talk about it, right? So my dad was entrepreneurial, so he's always burned out and fried and late, and so he was pretty much absent. So what I've learned watching the model is like, I don't want that shit, right? And I think a lot of us came up with that, but
I
more of the danger, what's more dangerous, the injuries that we sustain as children. This is part of my work when I do or work with clients is, you know, the formative years. This is the psychology part of the work. In the formative years, between the age of 5 and 11, formative years is when all of us gets our ass kicked by life. Neglect, abandonment, abuse issues of all kinds. Some people are all four, plus sexual abuse, like some crazy, the story I could tell you, right? Make your hair curly as mine. Like people's lives, Seriously, people's lives are like, some people have horrible lives. And so when you're not being, if you've not been loved right, if you've been abandoned, neglected, or abused in childhood by the age of 5, typically, because by the age of 11, you've already lived a few traumas. So they kind of start collecting. But typically, it's crazy. Everybody seems to have been, again, just like me at 5, when the thinking and the feelings come together, you go, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it, right? At 5, that's when the consciousness is big enough. So most every one of us, if you look back, and if you just trust me on this, on the data, because this is my work, we kind of, out of our circumstances, abuse, neglect, abandonment, conclude something about us, about it. Like, we take that personally. So if I'm obviously a piece of shit for my family to ignore me, to abandon me, to not take care of, to neglect me, right? We take that personally, every one of us, because we idolize our parents. We love them, but they don't love us right. So we think it's us. This is
I
primary
must
injury.
cause that.
I caused that. I know it's me, right? So we end up at 5 years old, 4, 5, and 6, right? With belief system that becomes embedded about, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, right? I'm incapable, I suck, the world's a terrible place, you can't trust people, like whatever the hell it is, right? That we turn on ourselves. And what happened with the human condition, human brain, is we go out in the world and prove that. So if you think you're incapable or you're unlovable or you're not worthy of being cherished properly, you attract people who will prove that to you, and then you go, see, and see, and see, because we don't choose.
Reinforcing it.
We're enforcing it because it's just like, if you buy a white Tesla, right? And all of a sudden, everywhere during the weekend, you see white Teslas everywhere. Like, so your awareness becomes what you know, right? So you buy a new car, you see it everywhere. So when we believe that we're not lovable, we go in the world and prove it. We see it everywhere. We attract people who prove that to us. We want to be right. That's the human brain. So we don't really choose anything. We copy and repeat what we know. Tragedy. This is how you ruin somebody's life. This is why you want to be nurturing, kind, and loving to children, as opposed to destroy them at the age of 5 and 6 by neglecting, abusing them, right? So the work has to be done there. This is where the injuries start, the primary injuries of the false belief that you have about yourself, that you conclude per the things that the world did to you, your parents primarily, and the people in your childhood. So that has to be cleaned up. I can't get anybody in a healthy relationship until we clean up your baggage. And your baggage starts with your childhood bullshit, your traumas, and then the relationships afterwards up to early adulthood that confirm that you now think is who you are and the truth. That has to be completely removed. So I use this with the trauma work I do it through NLP, and really cleanse
What's NLP?
neural linguistic programming. It's a way to, like, literally, it sometimes involves hypnosis, but not necessarily. So it's a way to, like, relax the body, access the subconscious, and release that shit. Like, not 3 years on the couch, 45-minute process.
Like release,
Incredibly fast.
like you went
Release from the nervous system.
release
Release that
meditation,
belief.
release meditation.
Release the belief of your nervous system. This is not true. This is a conclusion that you bought. You made it up. Your parents, you know what I mean? Like, whether you weren't loved right because of you were loved wrong because of your parents and the people around you. It's not your fault. So liberated from carrying the load of, see, I'm a piece of crap, see, I'm a piece of crap, see, I'm a piece of crap, and continuing proving that in the world. It's the psychology of it. So clean up your nervous system, then learn about men and women and all the communication stuff, right? Because men can't really explain much, right? We're very reactive to the ladies, right? She's a yes or she's a no. There's no in between. I like her, don't like her. She's cool, I don't want to be around her, right? So we're going to date, and depending on the energy coming at us, without thinking about it, it's like, she's all right, but no, I'm not. I don't need another one, right? I don't need to do that again. Like,
No, I get
man,
exactly what you're saying.
that's men, right? Yes and
Right.
no. So we're responding to women in a way that they don't understand. So when a woman has got trauma, because trauma turns women into stepping into their masculine. They don't develop their feminine side appropriately, because I can explain longer, but I don't really want to take time here. Just trust me on that. Traumatized women become masculine. Traumatized men become feminine. Fear. So we get flipped upside down.
So traumatized women become masculine.
Yeah. So yeah, what
Yeah.
calls the wounded feminine does not trust, femininity, so they become masculinized. The wounded feminine, the masculine men become feminized. They don't
No,
trust their
that
own
makes
masculinity.
absolute. Listen, that
You with
makes
me?
absolute sense because and not to get into too much of it, but we have a society right now
Ta-da!
men have
We
all
flipped.
feel like, well, you've hurt me because we
Yeah.
told young boys they need to be super in touch with their feelings,
Yep.
which we're not used to. So what do? We become very that makes
Soft.
perfect sense. We
That's it.
become softer and we tell these young girls, well, you need to accept the fact that these things happen and you need to strengthen yourself. So they're becoming
You got
more
it.
dude, that was like, holy shit.
Yeah. So that's
You
the
just
base.
explained everything that
Yeah.
nobody else could ever explain
Hey.
on every news thing. Like, you just explained it all in that quick.
In a minute. Yeah. Because it's always the same thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like women who are masculine who struggle with relationship with men because masculine men don't want masculine women,
Fact.
and feminine men turn off masculine women and all women, right? So women
Fact.
don't want feminine men and men don't want masculine women across the board. So that's not working. But that injury that happens in childhood would turn people inside out. And so what happened is women who are strong, independent, and powerful, and masculine because of what happened to them. It's not their fault, right? Sometimes it's a training, but it's often typically an injury because even daddy training to be a boss babe is a trauma for her as well, even though he meant well. Anyway, so details here, but it's always the same. Really, it's always the same. Just get decoded per each person. So masculine women step in the world like men, work like men, compete like men, fight like men, earn a living like men, have sex like men, and they don't know why they attract feminine men because the mind fuck here, excuse my French, but that
No, you're good.
masculine attracts feminine, regardless of
Right.
which body it's in. So masculine women attract feminine men, and they think that's men. These guys that are passive, they're losers. They like nature just polarizes everything. So if the guy is masculine, he wants nothing to do with the masculine woman. He won't even say hi. He won't acknowledge her. But a feminine woman go, wow, she's tough. She got her shit together. She's got some money. She could help me take care of, right? So the same way masculine men attract feminine women attract feminine men, and they think that's men, and they hate us. But it's not us. It's them, boys. Ugh.
Brother,
You with
Andre,
me? You with me?
Andre, you have just pulled an entire mind fuck right now and answered like that makes so much sense
You get it. Yeah.
when you see these, you know, guys that I look at. Listen, and you may not know this, most of my viewers know I did 20 years in the Marine Corps myself.
Okay.
So my wife is a beautiful woman. She's a very feminine woman. She can take care of herself, but at the same time, I look at her and I'm like, you better be able to listen. We're riding out this one together. I know other young men who are very feminine leaning,
Mhm.
and the women they're with, I'm like, dude, she'll whoop your ass.
Right. They're
A-
masculine as
And
hell.
they're
Right.
very masculine.
Yeah.
And we see that from our generation, and we're
Mhm.
like, I wouldn't put up with that.
Right.
But
Right.
these
Right.
young guys are like, no, it's okay. I'm good with
Well,
that.
that's part of the
Wow.
cultural, and it's not an accident, by the way, right? It's been in the in it's a what's the word I want to use? It's not a conspiracy. It's part of the setup agenda, right? So if you shame men out of being masculine, right? To shame them out of it
Right.
from
They don't want
that
to, they don't
from
want
the
that
time they're
emotion.
little, right? From the time they're little, like, you're not, you're toxic, you're dangerous, you're cheater, shut up, you suppress women for millennia. So it's our turn, the ladies, right? And the guys, so we shame men out of being masculine. They don't have boundaries any longer, and they kind of collapse around women.
Well,
And
that goes back to the exile from society.
yeah,
We have a natural built-in process in our DNA that goes
yep,
back to Captain Caveman that says, I can't be exiled from the group because exiling from the group means I'm going to die. So if you're exiling me from what I think society needs me as, I have to shift. to what society will keep me as, so I'm not exiled from the group.
And then that doesn't work at all, right? So we feminize men, ashamed that I would be masculine. We think it's going to be better because masculinity is toxic and dangerous. Well, no, it's the lack of masculinity that makes men dangerous. It's the ones that can't control their feelings, their emotions, who are still on testosterone, who are dangerous. They can't control their emotions. Those are the ones that rape, kill, shoot, con. It's this lack of masculinity that makes men shitty. It's not masculinity, because masculine men provide, protect, cherish, give support, guide, lead everyone, everything, women, children, their kids, anybody who needs help. That's what masculine does. So it's not toxic. It's the lack of fucking masculinity that's toxic. Anyway, so just,
Well, just as
I
you're
had to
saying,
do it.
I think of
Right.
any man that I grew up with that I saw as a role model that was what I would consider as a man, a masculine man. They got up every day. They went to work. They were physically gentle, if that makes sense. Like
Mm,
if you fell down, they knew to say, "All right, come on, get back up." But if
yep,
you were really hurt, they knew how to take care of
of
you.
course.
But they never. So that makes perfect sense. So
Yeah.
so how does this? I want to get into, because we're going to do about another
I know.
9 or 10 minutes here,
Okay.
because bro, like this is like you are such an eye opener. And look, folks, if you want to know more about what Andre has going on, projectequinox.net. It's not .com, it's .net.
Yeah.
You can see what he's got going on. He's also on LinkedIn under
All the
Andre Paradis, but that's with an S at the end of it, because I just learned how to speak French. You like that shit.
very good.
Yeah, you can see what he has going on. Make sure you're checking out everything.
Yeah. All the
So
platforms. All the
so
platforms that participate.
he's on everything. So I want to get to Orchid's question real quick.
Okay.
So her question was, what are your tips for a healthy relationship?
I mean, that's the question of the year, isn't it? Like, it's a
Right.
huge question. I'm going to tell you what works, right? Because now we actually have decoded, I plus the masters on which I traded. Not my opinion. This is the work of the data, all backed up, right? This is how it works. Now, by the way, it's not a male female thing. It's not even a gender thing. It's an energy thing. Both men and women have masculine and feminine energy within us. But when we just talked about is when the energy is inverted, too much masculine for the feminine women, too much feminine for the masculine, right? So when you go, it's called ego dystonic, opposite of your body's essence. This is when you suffer. This is going against nature, right? And you're going to suffer. Life is going to be very complicated. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. Anyway, so when we research relationships that last long term, that are healthy, 30, 35, 40, 50 years, whether they're man and woman, man, woman, by the way, right? Energetically, it's always the same. It's just a formula, you guys. One leads more, one supports the lead. Now, this is like the ones who do it naturally, this is who they are in the temperament, right? One is like the extroverted, the other one's introverted. The other one's that opens all the door, talks to everybody. The other one wants none of that, right? My
Were
wife's
you talking to my
introvert.
wife before this? Were you
See?
talking to my wife before this?
But every relationship that work is exact opposite. Like one is, forward facing, the other one is inward facing, but they complete each other. That's how they fit. That's the yin yang. That's the beauty. That's nature, right? So there's always one who's extroverted, one's introverted. One is more public, the other one's more private. One is what do you call it? Uh, Afraid to get dumped. That's typically the feminine. Where the masculine afraid to lose themselves in the relationship and get sucked in and disappear, lose themselves. Right now, sometimes again, masculine women will be like man; they'll be afraid to get sucked in, don't want to get in a relationship, and feminine men are afraid to get dumped. Oh my God, she's gonna dump me, right? So it's all these pieces are always the same. The British relationship that work, gay, straight, or lesbian, are set up where there's a leader and a support of the lead, and that's who they are. That's how it works.
Yes.
That's what they like. So in our culture, when we put women in the leadership position all the time, and they think no man's going to tell me what to do, well, how's that going to work? Right? Again, so if the woman leads and drives the guy by the nose, that will only last because the polarity is there, but it's only going to last between 5 and 10 years because eventually she loses respect for him because he's too passive. She carries the load. She doesn't have the testosterone and chemistry to support that past the age of 40, 35, 40, right? They get resentful. They dump the guy. right? So
Are we getting into politics now? God, that's a
I'm
whole
just saying what I'm just telling you what happens. This is what happens.
brother.
This is what
No, it
happens.
makes perfect sense. Listen, like what you're saying makes perfect sense. So to answer kind of
Yeah.
Orch's question, what I'm hearing for you is you have to have your the healthy relationship is have your roles kind of set. Like
So,
is that am
yes.
I hearing that right?
Well, yes and no, because there's all the
Okay.
flexing in between, right? So it's not like he's masculine or you're feminine, and that's it. Because again, we both have both, right? So there's a balance. You want ideally what works best is a man that's mostly masculine most of the time and have a certain like a you know 25% feminine essence inside of him. That so I'll give you an example. Look behind me. This is gonna take it right home. Since
Dude, I
this is
love
my
this. Oh, is
this is
that
my
that
wife and I.
is it
This is
really?
my
Brother,
wife and I did ballroom dancing. Check it out. Now, so
I
who
was
leads?
no,
I do. Who
that's
follows? She do. Right now, well, get this. This is the same for relationships. In order for her to allow me to take her on the dance floor, right? I have to lead, obviously, but I have to lead with sensitivities because I could actually
that's to
hurt her
allow
if
it.
I lead. Right? If I could lead her too hard. I could hurt her. Factual. Right? So in order for her to connect with me and feel safe and let go and of control, then let me control, right, and lead. I have to be gentle. I have to, right? I have to be delicate. I have to. And by the way, as I lead her, I'm constantly responding to her response. Like I'm really aware of everything she's going through back at me. That's how I gauge moment to moment, second to second. You have no idea. This is really fine tuning, right? So she's following me, but she's not passive. She's actually doing, she has to hold her frame so I could lead her, right? So she has to have her structure. She's doing everything I'm doing backwards in the high heels in a dress. That's not easier. It's
That's
different.
what Ginger Rogers used to say about Fred
That's what I'm
Astaire.
saying. Right. So they're not the same, but they're complementary, right? So again, my leadership is essential, right, for us to go somewhere, right? But with sensitivities, her feeling safe is allowed to let me lead, knowing I'm not going to spin her into a wall, right, and or hurt her. But get this: what happens is when she lets go of control because she feels safe with me. What happens? She radiates, she shines, she glows femininity. No one is looking at me; everybody's staring at her. This
Absolutely.
beautiful feminine essence. So that's relationship. So masculine leadership with sensitivities, vulnerable, feminine response with um, with letting go of control and be able to literally women in their feminine rejuvenate us. Women, feminine energy,
Absolutely.
feminine lifts our spirit, fills our soul, makes us smile. That makes us like sunshine on your face. Plus, it brings life into us, right? So we love women to be feminine because literally they lift our spirits with that energy. So if I'm going to take the lead, be gentle about it, so my wife could glow like this, for me to delight in this, that's a relationship model. You see? So that's the cocktail. Last thing to answer that question really quickly. I know, I just because
I
the
loved it.
details, right?
Yeah.
So what makes relationship work is within all this, right? The negotiating, the in betweens. I don't like when you do this, if you could do it differently, I'll take care of this. If you could take care of that, I don't want to do this. Do you mind doing that? Right? There's negotiating the stuff that sometimes is masculine for her, feminine for me, right? So there's all the flex in between, but the big drive has to be kind of in place appropriately. With the flex, everybody's different. I get it. But we, again, another thing that we know for relationship, all relationships that work, what they do, they're polarized. And the second thing is they have each other's back. They
Yes.
have each other's back. So when people don't have each other's back and they're trying to fight with each other and trying to win, right? We trying to climb on the other one's head. The relationship that lasts for centuries, for decades, or when he wants her to win and she wants him to win, and together when there's conflict, let's work it out. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. Let's negotiate it. And those are the couples who succeed.
Brother, listen, folks, if you want to know what Andre's got going on, Project Equinox, EQUINOX.net. See what he's got going. Do you have any seminars? Where can people see you on a regular basis?
Well,
Where can they find you?
okay, so I have a gift actually for you listeners. If that's cool.
Yes, please.
Like, so I have a workshop coming up next week. Next Tuesday, I have a live workshop. So if you go to my Instagram under Project Equinox, This one of the first thing when you check if you go to Linktree, like so, there's an event, it's a little event for 2 hours next Tuesday. That's one thing. Come and play with me. It costs like a little bit of money, and it's 2 hour event. We'll talk about some of the stuff we talked about plus plus. So that's something if you want to are interested in poking around and kind of step in a little bit. But I do a lot of podcasts, this. I do a lot of podcasting because I'm trying to send the waves of hope out there, right? There is the culture, what's on the culture is making everything, when it comes to relationship, almost impossible, right? Everything that's weird is now normal. Everything that's normal is stupid, right? That's not working. We're going against nature too hard, right? There's a modern way to do this. Anyway, so I do a lot of podcasting, trying to spread the word, spread the message. It is doable, right? You just don't know. You have to learn, like involving couples. They have to learn to do this. Doesn't happen by itself, right? So in the podcast world, I do 2, 3 a week. I'm doing 5 this week. It's kind of cool. But I noticed there's 2 types of listeners. So I have a gift for 2 listeners.
Okay.
I self-identify. So there's people who come into these things. They want information. They're curious. They're poking around. You know what I mean? They're starting to understand there's things that don't work. They don't understand why does she, how come he does, right? So information seekers, if you're an information seeker, I'm going to send you directly to my email, Andre Coaching, the number 1 at Gmail. ANDRE, my name, coaching, the word coaching, COACHING, the number 1 at Gmail. And in the subject box for the ladies, right? If you write Irresistible Book, I'm going to send you this little workbook, 30 pages. It's called The 5 Feminine Qualities High Value Men Find Absolutely irresistible. This is the result of my work with men who are telling me what it is that they find is irresistible in women. Ladies, it will blow the top of your head off. You have no idea, right? Because you have no idea, because these conversations we don't have. So information seeker ladies, Irresistible Book, Andre Coaching 1. Now, the other type listeners typically are more like, okay, this guy gets some stuff, right? They're action taker, right? They're everywhere. Like, okay, I want to have a conversation with this guy. I want to talk to him. Like something resonated, like you did, right? You resonated, like, because I teach nature. That's why it resonates. Yeah. It's not fake. It's what it is.
What it is.
So if you're curious, if you're a little bit more brave or an action taker, Andre Coaching 1 in the subject box, write talk now. And what I'll do is I'll send you a link to my calendar. You'll find a spot that's open that works for you, that works for me. We'll book an exploratory call. So it's an hour and 15 call where we're going to literally, me and you, talk about,
dude, that's huge.
What's not working for you? Where is you stuck? And again, because I do this every day, I go right to childhood. The first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, we go right to childhood, and you will figure out why you turn out the way you turn out per things you forgot about in childhood. Seriously.
Now so, if you weren't just giving that to listeners, what would something like that normally run somebody?
Well, a call with me is $400, but I don't do just single calls. I actually do packages, because you can't learn anything in a month, right? So you have to do kind of but there's different packages, different levels of small, medium, large. But yeah, I work at $400 an hour. So this is free. This is free.
We're going to put this in folks, when I post this up for the podcast side, I will put this in the podcast link.
Thank you.
The audio link, so people can find it. Dude, that's huge.
So yes, so what happens is this, like, people come at me often. The ones on the call will say like this, what's wrong with me? I have, women will say, I have everything. I'm young. I have money. I have a career. I have a car. I have everything. I'm no trouble. How come nobody's dating me? How come I can't get a date? And if I get a date, I get dumped. On the second, I get ghosted. I go, honey, too masculine. Now let's go find out why. So we're going to childhood, right? So again, women and men come at me with what's wrong with me, and we decode it. So that call alone will actually make you realize there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a product of your past. And if we know what happened, we could fix it. So again, the trauma release, get that crap off your nervous system. If you're a woman, learn about men, how men date, why men commit, when to cross into sexuality and intimacy with men. There's a whole system there that men cannot explain. If you don't know it, you're going to screw it up. Right? So, So if we know where you've been, that you're not broken, that we could fix it, what's the dream? That's the conversation. What's the dream? Marriage, kids, you want long-term partnership, and then we'll talk about the things that I offer, small, medium, large. But some people, even people who never work with me, that call alone is liberating. So
dude, that's huge.
I think so. So
folks, check out what Andre's got going on at Project Equinox. I'm going to put a link in the show bio that'll tell you how to get that either the book, or if you're feeling yourself and you want to actually spend an hour and 15 with Andre and have him kind of unlock those things and start down that process. I'll put that in there. If you're enjoying what you listen to today, make sure you like, share, follow it. It may sound cliche, but listen, that's how both of our lives work. Like,
Yep.
share, follow. It's how these
Yep.
algorithms work. That's how they're built. You doing that, it's how Andre's message gets out. It's how the show message gets out. Take the time, do those kind of things, leaving a review for either one of us. That's how we both get found out. Next week, we're talking to Ella Parler. She's an author of a best-selling memoirs called High Tolerance. Her father was a Marine major. So I'm curious, like, God, you should talk to all my guests because I wonder how that affected her. She's a marketing leader with experience driving growth in Fortune 500 companies. We're going to be talking about sales and marketing strategies, budgeting for maximizing impact, which if you own a small business like I do, that's a huge thing. Google will tell you every time, you're limited by your budget. Well, let me put $300 in there a day.
Right.
You're still limited. Let me put 400. Listen, Google is a scam that will get your money. Listen to me, folks.
Hello.
We're going to talk about leveraging AI in business growth. I use it every week. Leadership for a modern workplace. We're going to be discussing all those things and how to tailor things to you. That's going to be next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, Andre, don't log off on me after this. We got to talk for a couple of minutes. We are going to hopefully you and I can find a time that works. Because, brother, I would love, like, all this was amazing, but I'm telling you, that year and a half in 91 is absolutely fascinating to me.
Okay.
Especially since in 91, I was a 14, maybe 15-year-old boy who, in my mind, like, you heard about things like Chippendales, and all you could think of in your mind was like, these dudes are banging every chick that walks through the door. And then all of a sudden your mom's like, I'm going out to Chippendales. And you're like, no,
all right, what are you doing?
No, Mom. So we're going to have to talk about that.
We're going to have fun.
Absolutely. So how we do on every single episode of every show, folks, the guest, Andre, always gets the final word. So what's the final word for tonight?
Oh, something I say all the time, right? What's in our culture right now when it comes to relationship is really keeping us miserable. You know, women are feeling abandoned and lonely because nobody steps up, and the men are kind of like shamed out of being masculine, so they just back up, right? They back off. So that's not working. So we have to reframe this thing. So one of my assistants, I have a team of 6. One of my personal assistant is a 29-year-old, lovely, feminine young girl here in Los Angeles. Wants a traditional life. She wants 3 children, and right. Well, she can't say that out loud because the women go crazy on her. Right, girl, you're better than being some dude's slave, and children ruin your life. And she's like, "Can you guys just drop dead?" Right, but she's. Was that no? She's here in Los Angeles too.
But she can.
I know, right? Because she comes to the East Coast.
I have a 28-year-old son that's looking for exactly that.
Right, traditional woman who wants to be a girl,
and he's a boat captain. So
nice. So my point is, in our culture right now, we shame women out of being mothers and wives and being feminine. Right, it gives you nowhere. It's too passive. It's bullshit. It's exact opposite. It's the women's femininity is their superpower that brings us to our knees. So that's a lie. Do you know what I mean? But again, what I'm saying is this lovely young woman that I know that assists me cannot speak her wants and needs out loud. They attack her.
Wow.
So it's everywhere, by the way. It's in the culture. I call it the tidal wave of social, beliefs that it's impregnated everything. Men are toxic, dangerous. You can't trust them. They're cheaters. No. That's boys, and strong, independent, powerful is what everybody should be as a woman. No, it won't work if you want a personal life. It won't. Just saying. So I say my message is think for yourselves. If you're a man and you feel weak, go freaking step into your life. Go conquer something. Discipline yourself. Push through your fears. Build your character so that you could be proud of yourself and build your confidence, have a sense of mojo that you could actually, when you conquer your fears, this is when you push against something that's hard. And this is how you get self-respect, but respect from men and women for society. So man's role has never changed. We're still expected to be traditional, provide, protect, cherish, give, support, pay, right? Nothing wrong with that. Love it. But these men are looking for women who want to be traditional men, want traditional women, and we now raise women to not be traditional at all costs. Refuse to be traditional. You're better than that. And this is why everybody's struggling. So think for yourself. You want to be a mom. You want to be a mom and a wife. Go be a mom and a wife. And forget your culture. Forget your teachers. Forget your mother who's made terrible choice with your father. That happens a lot, and tells you men are dangerous. No, that was her story. Don't let her like pollute your world with her crap and her fear, right? And your teachers and like the culture is everywhere. Think for yourselves. You want to be traditional? Go for it, because most men, 70% of men, is still traditional. They want wives, they want children, they want legacy. This is what we make. This is what actually keeps us alive, because men without family and people to take care of cannot make sense of their own existence. It's a drive. So men want marriage and children, the real man, the masculine man. So, but these guys can't find women either, because they're called. So what do you want? Decide what you want and go for it, and forget what's out there. Boom. Sorry.
Already, folks. Be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.